So one of the side projects I've been trying to slowly work on is this writing platform I'm building out for my wife so that she can write her books and publish them on her own personal website so that her readers can read her story. And then eventually add in like a paywall or some AdSense. But for right now, what I want to do is I want to make certain things in this application configurable. So some of the things I would like to be configurable would be, for example, like this app name up here, in case you wanted to change it to something custom, maybe even the heading or the subtitle over here. You could change that. The about page, maybe she can put whatever information that she wants in here. So kind of like a really custom CMS that's baked directly into this application. Now, I'm not going to make everything customizable. Like if I wanted to make a fully customizable application, I should probably add in like WordPress, or I should be using something like a headless CMS. I just want something simple. So let's start within this video. I'm going to live code the ability to modify this about page and have that be loaded from configuration. So the way I would tackle solving this is I do have a schema file already set up, and this is using Drizzle for my ORM. And there's a couple of tables that already exist, but hopefully you guys can follow along. The same concept if you're using Drizzle or Prisma or whatever, you have to define your tables. So if we want to have a centralized place that the user can modify configuration, we probably want to have like a new table. So I'm going to say export const configuration. We can go ahead and just bring in a new table called configuration. And some of the things that we want configurable could include the name of the application. Yeah, we could do the heading. We could say subheading like this. We could say the email. What other things? Let's just do about. Let's just do the about for right now. So we're going to keep it simple. We'll keep it as that. And so now that we have this, what we could do is basically generate a migration script. So once you add a table, you could say npm run db generate. This is my own custom command that I like to add to my projects. Basically, it runs drizzle kit generate, and you pass it your drizzle configuration. And so when I run this, you will see that it's going to detect that a new table has been added, and then it adds in a new migration script. So it's just going to add a new table with a couple of columns in it that we can customize as needed in the future. So we can simply just do a generate, actually we'll do a migrate. So that will actually apply the migration script to our application. I have a locally running database in here, so I have like a Docker file, which is spinning up a Postgres database. So that's how the database kind of works. But now we should be able to actually add in a configuration row. So the way I like to structure my applications is I typically have like a data access file. And inside of here, I'm going to add one for the new table that we added. This is just the convention I like to use. So we're going to say export const get configuration. And this is going to eventually do a database lookup. So we need to bring in this database object, which let me just kind of close this. I have this file called db, which you can see it just sets up a Drizzle connection with Postgres. And then we can use that database object to fetch the first configuration record that exists in the database. Now, if there is no record, we should probably return some defaults. So I'm going to say const default configuration. And then we're going to say if there is no configuration, return that default. You could probably do some type of like JavaScript fallback if you wanted to, but I think this is good enough. So we want to make sure that this thing is typed using the same typing of this new configuration table. So one thing in Drizzle you typically have to do is you go export and you just make a new type here. So we're going to go ahead and export that type so that we can type this like this. Make sure I import it from the right file. There we go. And then this thing is missing some things. So like we need to make sure we actually have like whatever missing fields might be needed. And the ID, we're just going to hard code it to 0. Hopefully that's fine. But yeah, let's just go ahead and update the defaults with some stuff. So let's go back to here. We'll say stories that inspire. And then also we'll do this little subheading. And then on the about page, let's just grab that first paragraph. We'll keep it simple. Okay, and then email, hello, thewritingplatform.com. Yeah, okay, so this is probably a good start. And now what we want to do is on these different pages, we want to load in this configuration and probably do it on the server-side render pass-through so that we actually have the latest up-to-date information for search engine optimization. So what do I mean by that? So let's go and find the route that is used for the about page. I'm using tanstack start, and the way the routing works is you'll have a routes directory, and every single route will have a file attached to it. So looky there. If I want the about page, there's an about.tsx. So let's load up this page. And the first thing we're going to try to do is we want to pull in that configuration and just display it here, like in place of all this additional text that I have. So first off, let's just go ahead and delete literally all this. We're just going to delete it all because this is all AI generated, and we're going to just, you know, it's fine to just restart from scratch. So we're going to go ahead and pull in that information from that get configuration function. The way you can achieve this in TanStack start is there is a create server function that we can call. So I'll say export const get configuration fn equals, and then I'll say create server fn. Okay, and then I can actually just have this have a handler which is going to do some stuff. Okay, what is it going to do? Well, it needs to call the get configuration method that we had in our data access directory so that we can fetch that configuration from the database. Okay, so the loader, this is where you can actually call various backend related server functions. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do a return here and get that information. Just so you guys are on the same page, the loader is an isomorphic function. So it runs on the front end and the back end. So we want to make sure that it's invoking a server function. Like you can't do database calls inside this loader. Very important to remember that, or else your app will kind of break. So how do we get the data that's returned here? The way you can achieve that is you can say const, I think it's just data equals to route dot use loader data, just like that. In fact, is this the right way to do it? Let me just go ahead and just double check this. Okay, this will actually be the configuration. Okay, so since we're returning a full configuration object here, when this page runs, it'll load that data, and then we can display it. So I can say configuration dot, and then we'll do the about. And there you have it. There is the data being displayed. So what I want to do here is if you are logged in as an admin, it would be cool if I could just like click anywhere in this div and then change it to some type of like edit mode so that I can then change it on the fly without having to go to another page or another route or whatever. Like it's nice where I can just edit the things as I see them. I think that is one of the best user experiences. So we might use AI to generate that type of component, but let's just try to help Cursor understand like what we want here. So let's go ahead and just make a component in the same file. Like why not? It's fine. As long as the file doesn't get too large, it's probably okay. We're going to say function editable content. And then we want this component to basically show this information. But then if you click on it, it should like toggle to an edit mode. And then when you blur out of that input or you do something, it'll save it and then update that in our database. So in terms of implementing this editable content, I'm actually just going to use AI to kind of generate something because I think it's going to do pretty well, at least give us like an initial starting point. So over here, I'm going to say, build me an editable content component, which will show the text passed in props. But when a user clicks on the area and they are in admin, switch the text to edit mode, which allows the user to edit the text. And I'll say, and add a debounce to change the, or save the text after 2 seconds of not typing. Let's see how far this thing can get. I have a feeling it'll do pretty well for a first pass. And by the way, if you guys don't like the fact that I'm using AI to implement stuff, like I'm actually just showing you how I do my full-time job now. Like I am leveraging, I wouldn't call this vibe coding, but I am leveraging AI all the time in my current workflow. And so I think it would just make sense for me to code like I do at work, because I have found that this is a great way to be productive using Cursor. And if you don't have Cursor or like AI tooling to help you move fast, I mean, I would recommend you get it because I do think it's very, very beneficial. All right, let's just go ahead and look through what it changed. So it has an update configuration function, and this is basically creating a server function. Method post is important because after a certain point, the payloads get too large and you can't send over the edit information. But when you're using a server function, you can add a validator and you can require that this has certain properties passed in. So in this case, we're expecting an object that has an about field, and that has to be a string, right? Now this is calling an update configuration method, which I'm guessing it must have added one. So let's go over here. It looks like it added a method that we can call to update the configuration in our database. Okay, so pretty straightforward. It's pretty nice that it kind of got that out of the box. Go ahead and just delete some of that stuff we're not using. What other things is this doing? So now we're actually checking to see if we're an admin. Luckily, I already have an is admin function. This is just kind of like checking to see if I'm logged in as an admin or not. So we're going to get the configuration and the check if we're an admin. Those are both going to be sent over probably now in the loader data. Let's go ahead and say like use loader data, figure out where that's coming in. Okay, so we get those and then we pass them to the editable content field. And then this takes those in and kind of does some stuff. So there's a lot of state information going on here. I want to make sure this code actually seems correct. But when this component first mounts, it looks like it's not going to be in edit mode. It's going to store the current database content in this state. And then we're tracking to see if we're saving. We have a toast. Okay, and I didn't ask for a toast, but I guess it's going to make it nice. We got a debounce. We got a text area ref. Okay, so basically it's going to listen for when the user's typing. And then after 2 seconds, it should probably try to set saving to true, update the configuration function, and then it'll show some toast. So I think this code looks pretty accurate. If you're not an admin, it looks like it just tries to show the content. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's kind of scroll through some more. If we are editing, we will show a text area, which when we change, we basically update that local content. And again, after 2 seconds, that'll automatically persist to our backend and to our database. We have an is saving thing that shows as the user types. That's pretty nice. But otherwise, if we're not editing, it looks like we just show the content. Okay, so I think this code all looks, pretty straightforward. Let me accept this. Knowing AI, it'll probably have like 1 or 2 bugs. But now if I were to click on this area, let me just refresh. All right, I went ahead and connected to my database real quick so we can kind of take a peek at this data and make sure that we do have my current login is set to admin. So right now it says web Cody is true. I don't know who I'm logged in as. Let me log out and log back in. Go to the about page and now I can click it. Pretty cool. So now when I click it, I can actually start typing. I should wait 2 seconds and I should see successfully saved down at the bottom. Okay, so now let's test this out and just do a hard refresh. And it looks like it didn't actually persist this. So we got to do a little bit of debugging. It looks like the code isn't fully working as we thought it would. Let me just go ahead and do this. It made a request to my backend. Notice over here, it made a successfully stored. And then when I refresh, the old data is showing up. So it's not truly persisting the information. And also what I could probably try doing is checking. Oh, there is no configuration record. So this is something we're going to have to figure out. When we're saving the configuration, okay, we have this update configuration function. We probably need to first check to see if it exists. And if it doesn't, we should probably create a default configuration. Or we could use some of the values of the default configuration when we add it in. Or what we could do is on the GET request, we could check to see if it exists. And then if not, we could create one and return it. That could also be an approach too. I'm not sure what the best approach is. I think creating it, if it's not defined, might be pretty nice. So I'm actually just going to do an insert here like this. And we're going to make sure that we say database, insert, configuration. Why is this not? Oh, it's because this needs to be called like config. Got some naming overloading going on here. This is the actual like drizzle configuration. I might actually call this configuration table. That might make more sense. I can name that back. Okay, so same idea. Basically, we're going to say returning, and then we're going to return that. Okay, same thing down here. Let's fix that. We have configuration needs to be configuration table. And then, yeah, this should hopefully work now. Okay, so this now can potentially be, what's the difference between the setting hub set? Oh, one's an array. Okay, there's a little TypeScript error. I think this could potentially be multiple things. So I'll say like created entries equals this, and then we need to return the first one. All right, so now if I refresh, that record should have been created. There it is. And now if I edit this, let's double check this. I'm gonna go ahead and just let it save. And then I'm gonna hard refresh, and it did get persisted. So that information should be on the about now, which you can see over here, the exclamation marks. Now I will say the editing content editor thing is not the best. Like when I blur off this thing, it should probably autosave. And also it should update the content to show the new values. So like, let's just go back to the edit page one more time. And I'm going to say when a user blurs on the text area, it shows the old saved content in the page. Okay, so like, let's just let AI kind of fix this for us. Probably just a matter of adding it on blur, and then we should probably like reset what we're displaying based on the code, or sorry, based on like the database value. So let's just test this out real quick. I'm going to just add some exclamation marks. I'm going to blur it, and it did persist the value. Actually, that's not working the way I thought it was. So I'm actually going to undo, and then I'm going to say reject, because that's not working the way I thought it would. Now that I'm using this, I don't even like the debounce. I think the debounce actually makes this a worse user experience. Instead, I'm going to say, instead of using the debounce, just show a save button at the bottom right of the text area that a user can click to save instead of it being automatic. I think it could be kind of confusing when stuff is just like saving automatically. So we're going to do that instead. Okay, let's test this out. I'm going to say testing, and then I'll say save. And there we go. It looks like it saved it. So now that I'm kind of looking at this, I think instead of having the configuration be in the loader, I think we could probably just use like a suspense query. I think that might make more sense. And the reason we're going to do that is because I want to force it to reload when this saves. So I'm going to say const configuration is equal to use suspense query. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and put in a query key in the function. Okay. So this is a little bit different. Basically, this now could potentially be not defined until it's like, you know, fully done loading. So we're going to go ahead and say, pass in the about data instead. And then up here, like we don't have to do the configuration call anymore. Like I think we can actually just simplify this a little bit. We could probably have the isAdmin also be in a suspense query. That might make it more simplified. But let's just keep it as that. Now, again, the reason I'm doing this is because I want this editable content to know when I save. So I'm going to say on save. We're going to go ahead and just invoke a function here. I'm going to say configuration dot, I think it's a reload or like refetch. Yeah, I think it's refetch. Let's just call that. So that'll just force the handstack query object to just refetch and get the latest content. Not the best approach for right now, but it'll work. So I'm going to say on save, and we're going to have that be a function that's going to be invoked. And now we actually need to use it. So somewhere after we save, we will do on save. Okay, let's test this out. I'm going to go ahead and just do some exclamation marks. I'll click save, and it looks like it fully saved. That looks good. There's a little bit of a delay. I think maybe doing some type of optimistic updates would make this a better user experience, because on a slow network, like if I did fast 4G, you will see that it saves, but then the text like flashes in. So I have to kind of think about adding some optimistic updates for that, but I think this is nice. Let's just do some more additions to this. So I'm going to say in the editable content component, I need the entire area to highlight or indicate to the admin when it's an editable area. So hopefully this will add a class name that'll dynamically be added in when the admin hovers over. So the main thing I want to try to remember to look for is to make sure the code was added is doing some type of isAdmin type of check, which it looks like this is already admin related code. So I think we should be good. Let's just go ahead and accept this. And then let's just refresh. Save it. Looks like there's a click to edit. So this looks pretty nice. And so I don't think the content area is fully abstracted away, but eventually if I make this component as abstracted as I can, I could use this on various pages. And then everywhere in the application, I want like the admin to be able to modify things. I could just have this prop take in some additional like, I don't know, like on mutation or on save callbacks or whatever. I think we should probably add a cancel button. So I'm going to go ahead and say, also add a cancel button to the left of the save button. And both these buttons should be under the text area. Okay, so let's try to see what this is doing. It should go through and move those buttons down. Okay, so here are the green is where it changed my code. So handle cancel looks like it's just reverting the content of the text area back to the original one that's passed in. Setting editing to false. Okay, let's accept that. Doing some spacing here, that's probably fine. We got a cancel button now. Okay, this all looks pretty good, hopefully. Now let's click on it. We have cancel and save. So let's just go ahead and put some stuff here. Click save. And then it is going to actually print out for us. Pretty good. So now let's actually add in Markdown. So I'm going to say, can you have the displayed content actually use React Markdown or marked? I think it's called marked. I don't know if I have a Markdown. Do I have a Markdown? Yeah, I have React Markdown already installed. So let's see what it decides to do. Okay, it found that we have React Markdown already installed. It's going to go ahead and add that in. Okay, let's just go ahead and accept this, and then we should be able to go and actually like put spaces here, because before it wasn't really like indenting stuff properly. So let's just go ahead and save that. I also have a rich text editor that we could probably use. So I may change this just a little bit. I'm going to say, actually, I want the edit mode to show a rich text editor using TipTap like I do on the right page. Okay, change my mind a little bit. Let's just have this use the rich text editor so that people can bold fonts and bold stuff. So we'll see how far this gets. Okay, looks like a lot of changes, so this might be completely broken. Now let's click it, and then we can go ahead and bold certain things. Let's just save it, and then we see that those things actually got bolded as well. So that's pretty good. Now the only issue, I don't know if there is an issue. Can't focus on this thing for some reason. For some reason, I can't seem to focus on the text area now. Are you showing both the TipTap editor and a text area? Something going on with the implementation, so let's see if it can kind of fix the issue. It looks like there's an issue with the set timeout. I don't know, let's just test this out. I'm going to say, nope, that wasn't the issue. Content editable. Yeah, that's kind of strange. For some reason, the TipTap editor has false. Okay, so it looks like you actually have to set editable on the TipTap editor to like have it enable. Editable is false. Okay, let's just try that. Okay, so now I can type. Pretty cool. Let's save this, make sure that the changes are being persisted. And then, cool, save that. I think this is pretty good. Again, I probably would spend more time like abstracting away this thing, because right now it's still coupled to the about in the configuration. But I want to make this more abstract, and so I think if I have time, maybe in another video, or I'll do it offline, I want to pull this component out to another file and then refactor it to make it more abstract. But I don't think it would be too hard to use, because I want to do that on this page as well. So like if they were to click on this, or if they click on this, I could choose what fields in the configuration table it would update when they decide to save. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed me doing a little bit of live coding. Again, this is literally how I code at work. I will do cursor agent mode for a lot of my implementation, and then I'll come through and I will modify things as needed if I run into a bunch of issues. Now, I will say some of this code probably needs to have like a thorough review over it, but for low risk code, like stuff that honestly, like it's just saving some stuff. It's just switching stuff to an edit mode and then switching back to the visual mode. I don't think this is super important enough that like you can't use AI to generate it. Other than this is something that you should probably spend some time. Whenever you have dangerously set inner HTML, that is a sign that you could inject some very bad stuff. So on the back end, when we save this content, we want to make sure that we're parsing this properly. So I do want to make a note there. Wherever we save this, where is that? Update configuration. I'm going to say to do, be sure to make the about sanitized. Okay, that's very important. In fact, we could probably just do that right now. I'm going to say the data.about, let me just go ahead and copy this whole handler here, needs to be sanitized before storing in the DB. it is Markdown. So let's see what it, what library this is going to have us install. I'm sure there's some type of DOM Purify. Is that a good library? I'm going to double check. Got 7 million weekly downloads, so I mean, I'm guessing it's probably pretty good. I'm going to question, is DOM Purify the best solution when using Node? Let's see what it says. Yeah, because I have this feeling this is only browser stuff. So sanitize HTML. Again, let's just double check sanitize HTML. Yes, please add it. I'm pretty sure I've used this one before, so like I don't think I'm too worried about it. It has 2 million downloads. Yeah, I think I should be good. So that should bring in sanitize HTML. It'll install the package and also the types. And then it should update this code here to actually start using it. It's probably just going to be like one function called to sanitize it. And then we can store that in our database. Allowed tags. Quite a lot of tags there. Almost too many tags. And I do think the tip tap editor will sanitize as well. But again, you should always sanitize on your backend because you don't want someone to inject some malicious code into your database. And then when people view it, they will all load that malicious code. Yeah, honestly, I think there's too many attributes here. I think there's a lot more elements that I even want. But I think it's a probably good start. Let me just go ahead and just verify this works. Let's go back here and then put some exclamation marks, click save. Make sure it seems like everything is working well. Okay, I think it's good. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good day. Happy coding.